Gentlemen, today I'll be doing my review of Quorum Eau de Toilette Cologne here on Big Pretty Man. Hi, and welcome back to Big Pretty Man, the channel for the extra large man who likes to live his life large and in charge. I'm your host, Timothy Big Pretty Crowe. I'm a wardrobe and lifestyle consultant for the extra large man. You know, guys, it's been almost a year since I did a fragrance review. And I figured it was very much overdue. And if you remember, if you go back and look, you'll see that the last time I did a fragrance review, I was actually sitting in this purple chair. The reason being is I had an infection in my leg, and I had to do this sitting. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep a tradition. I'm going to sit here in my purple chair for the review. And speaking of my purple chair, I'll use that as a segue to plug my new channel, Lessons from the Purple Chair, where I sit in this purple chair and I talk about a lot of curio topics. Everything from true crime to the supernatural to mysteries to history to world religions, a lot of different topics. So definitely, I'll put a link down below in the description, and please, give it a like and subscribe. I've already put up some pretty interesting videos. So, but anyway, back to fragrances. I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit too traditional, a little bit too conservative when it comes to my fragrances. I don't use a lot. I'm a bit of a creature of habit. There's like maybe one or two or three that I would commonly use, and I thought, you know what, that's not good. It's time to kind of change it up, go with something different. But how would I go about that? How would I pick one? Well, I decided to ask my good friend Ash Jones over at the Chap Guide. He does some wonderful reviews of fragrances, and he does this interesting thing where, with each fragrance, he tries to think of what celebrity or personality he thinks best matches this fragrance. And so I thought, you know what? I asked him. I was like, okay, Big Pretty, what kind of scent, what kind of fragrance do you think fits Big Pretty? Well, of the fragrances you went over, which one says Big Pretty? And he come back immediately and said Quorum, which I thought was an interesting choice because Quorum is actually more of a retro scent. It's a big 1980s fragrance, very popular in the 80s, and it's of course it's still around. And so I decided to give it a try. I actually was not familiar with Quorum. I'd heard of it, but I wasn't, I didn't know which fragrance it was associated with, if I had smelled it before. So so I went ahead and give it a blind order. I trust Ash that much, which something I would not normally do is buy a cologne blind. But I figured, hey, it's actually not an expensive cologne. In fact, you can get it under like $15. It's pretty common to find. I thought, why not? It's $15. So I got it, and I found it very interesting. Well, first let's go over a little bit of the history of Quorum. Quorum was put out in 1981. It became popular in 82. It was put out by the House of Puig. And it's spelled Puig. Some people say Puig, but according to Wikipedia, it's pronounced Puig. So if I'm pronouncing it wrong, blame Wikipedia. But it's a very House of Puig is, or just Puig now, is a very interesting company. It was founded by Antoni Puig de Castelló in 1914 in Barcelona, Spain. It's still around. It's still family owned. In fact, they own a lot of other subsidiary companies, a lot of fragrance and fashion companies. Among its fashion companies, it is the majority shareholder in Jean-Paul Gaultier. So, and still a giant company, a monster of a company. In 2018, I know that they had a record income of 1.9 billion euro, and I think last year it hit 2 billion euro. So yeah, they're still a very large and very powerful and very influential company. And even though this Quorum come out many decades ago, I think it's still it still holds its own. Now let's take a look at I know people always do the box and the bottle, so let's take a look at the Quorum box. It's just a very basic box. I mean, and it's got this this kind of unique ziggy translucent design, and a lot of people say, oh, it's very 80s. To me, it looks more 70s in my opinion. This looks like the box of cologne for a man that's chain smokes cigarettes in a room with fake wood paneling. That's the weird image it gives me. With a floral designed couch and green glass lamps. That's the image I'm getting. A 70s living room with a chain smoking man in bell bottoms. That's what this box makes me think of. Don't know why. Maybe it's just me. And if we look at the bottle, very basic bottle. I mean, this one is the 3.4 ounce bottle, large size bottle. Nice design. Has this rather basic brown and with a gold band lid. Pull that off. The atomizer, it's got an atomizer, fairly nice. It kind of gives more of a misty spray than a harder spray, so you got to keep that in mind. Yeah. So now, as far as its notes, let's go over that. And I have written them down here. In the top, and it's very interesting. In the top notes, it's Artemisia, which is mugwort. Caraway, which is like it's a fennel plant from the carrot family, if I remember right. Bergamot, which is often used, if anybody's familiar, it's used in Earl Grey tea. It's a very woody, kind of a very woody, fragrant, resiny smell. And lemon and grapefruit. In its mid notes, it has pine tree, not so much the pine sap, but the actual pine wood. Sandalwood, patchouli, which that's interesting. You don't see that a lot in most colognes today. Carnation, which you almost never see that floral in most colognes today. So that's definitely different. Definitely something from the 80s. Cyclamen, which is a flower, and jasmine. So in the base notes, the ones that I find that really stand out after everything dies out, they're the ones I usually look more seriously at. The mid notes, the top notes die off fast, but those mid notes and the base notes, those are the best. Those are the combinations that are actually going to have the long-term presence with a cologne. Just a little tidbit there. But those base notes, I think, are good. They're oak moss, tobacco, leather, and amber. Very masculine choices here. So let's give Quorum a little shot. Now I put some on this hand a couple of hours ago, about an hour and a half ago, so that it would sink down into the base and mid notes. So and we'll try out the initial top notes and the rest on this hand. So let's give it a little spray. Okay, air that out a little bit. Ooh, it is strong. Ooh, it is very strong, very intense cologne. Right at the first top notes, you definitely pick up that citrus, but not so much. The lemony comes through, but I'm also catching that kind of that bitter pictin of grapefruit, which the combination I kind of like. I'm definitely catching the florals as well in an interesting mix, and it is a very, very strong scent. And even though the florals are kind of coming through, I'm also catching a lot of those the sandalwood and the woodsiness. This is definitely a woody, cologne, and very masculine smelling. Now, okay, let myself air out a little bit here, and I'm going to go and now with the older scent. Yes. Oh yeah. Now this is the more settled scent, and I'm definitely picking up woodsy. I'm catching that pine. I'm not. That grapefruit and lemon is little there, but I'm more picking up the moss. I'm picking up the sandalwood, the jasmine. Also I'm thinking a little bit of that carnation, which is kind of giving it a kind of a powdery under scent, which is very interesting. When I first started wearing this, I started wearing it about a week ago. I realized that it was a smell that I had, a fragrance I'd smelled before. I think maybe one of my uncles wore it back in the 80s. But I also know, for some reason, olfactory pops up memories. And the memory that's instantly brought up, and this is no insult to the cologne, it reminded me of when I walked by my grandmother's makeup table. She had that big old makeup table with a large mirror. And that powdery scent with a little bit of floral in it, that's what it made me think of. At first, I wasn't sure I was going to like that, but then it also kind of reminded me of barbershops and that barbershop smell. It's definitely a very powdery, clean smell, but with a little bit of floral, but but also very masculine with the wood smells, the bergamot. The tobacco really comes through. In fact, it's not so much of a sweet tobacco like you would get today with most cologne. It's more of a dry tobacco smell, which is a smell that I'm very familiar with. I grew up on tobacco farms, and this is definitely the drying, the tobacco if it's been hung and it's dried out. That raw, that raw smoking tobacco type of smell. Kind of a dusty smell, which actually lends to its masculinity. The amber, I think actually, and the leather and the amber come through a little bit with that tobacco. And I do think, and you find this in other colognes, that the mixture of tobacco, amber, and leather are a very masculine smell, and they always work as base scents, as base notes. They're they're great to underline a masculine fragrance, and you can also add top it off with a few spicy and floral scents without making it seem less masculine or feminine. It's because of those base notes, those woodsy, leathery, tobacco-y base notes. It still keeps that masculine feel. It is definitely a very woody scent. Now, this cologne is definitely a powerhouse cologne. It is very intense. I will also say it's got longevity. I know I've put this stuff on in the morning, and when I got home later in the evening, sometimes in the night, I could still smell it on myself. No, it's not over. It means it's eau de toilette, not eau de parfum. It is, it's strong. It's strong, but at the same time, it's not cloying. I would, however, go a little light on this, just the pulse points of your heart, neck, and chest, and wrists. Not much. You don't need much more than this. You definitely don't want to bathe in this. This stuff could be quite dominating, and maybe not in a good way. But it is a very masculine scent. It's a very powerful scent. This is a scent of that eludes confidence. In fact, I would wear this when I wore my Homburg hat, when I need to be the kingpin, when I need to be the big man in the room, the big man, big, large, and in charge. Quorum is definitely going to go along with that ensemble. I mean, this is the smell of the Homburg image right here. This is Kingpin's cologne. That's so this is a cologne for a strong man, a confident man. The smell of a kind of man that doesn't take any crap. Somebody that if you insulted him, he beat the hell out of you while his girlfriend held your jacket. That's Quorum. Where would you wear this? Well, this may be a little too strong of a scent for a date. You got to kind of judge that. There's some women that would be very turned on by a very strong, masculine, woody, tobacco-y scent. But this might be a little more intense. But this is definitely one for the office. This is definitely one for the job. This is I don't take any crap. I am a man, treat me with respect type of cologne, and I highly recommend that. What age group would I wear this? Well, I do not think that this is a cologne for younger men. I really don't. This is definitely a much more mature fragrance. This might be a little too much for a man in his 20s. I would say this is a cologne for a man 30, 40, or especially an older man into his 50s. I think that this is much more of a mature masculine scent, not so much for young men. Overall, I think that it is for such a price, $15, for its longevity and its intense power, I think it's a darn good deal, and I think it's definitely one you should have in your collection. This is definitely a manly scent. So, in conclusion, on Quorum, did Ash make a good choice for Big Pretty? Well, this is Quorum is a very intense powerhouse fragrance. It's very masculine. It's very woodsy. It's very leathery. It definitely has a strong and confident presence for a strong, confident, I don't take any shit man. So, yeah, that's Big Pretty. Good job, Ash. Good recommendation. Well, that's all I've got today for Quorum. I do recommend it. Like I said, it runs about $15. Definitely worth a try, even if you don't like it. No big loss there. But I think that you're going to like it, especially for extra large men. I think it's a good, strong, powerful scent fragrance for an extra large man. This is intense and powerful, and big men should be intense and powerful. So it's a perfect fit. Okay, well, go out and put on your best attire, put on your Homburg, and put on some Quorum. And you know what? It'll help you stay pretty.